Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back. It's Jordan here. Today we're going to continue working on my LEGO Medieval Diorama. We're going to be placing some sets, adding some trails and vegetation, and building some trees.
We're actually going to start with Lego trees. So the first thing I want to do is fix up that tree that was over there because it was missing all of its leaves. Leaf elements. I actually ordered a bunch from Bricks and Pieces. There's a few different colors. I think 4 or 5 different colors actually. And then I found all of those like individual smaller leaves that I put on the actual limbs. I found those on the pab wall. They're great just for filling in the tree, making them look just more natural. The next type of tree that I wanted to build is the 2x2 circular brick tree, and I actually feed those 2x2 circular bricks onto some flex hose. The flex hose, of course, I found on bricklink.com. There's all sorts of sellers that offer different lengths. You can buy it in bulk from hardware stores or something too, but I like using the actual Lego stuff. So just feeding the 2x2 circular bricks on, and then the tree leaf elements and putting the leaves on those, and then repeating that process until I get to the end of the flex hose. Now I'm also going to create a new style of tree. This one is going to be built using arches, similar to the first one that I was working on there, but this time I'm actually going to reverse it. I'm putting some small 1x3 inverted slopes on the bottom, and then some of the smaller arches, and then the larger arches near the top. Classically, I would start with the larger arches on the bottom and work my way up to the smaller arches being on the top, but that actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Usually trees get bigger as they move upward, right? Well, I guess there's different types of trees, but I really like the variety that I came up with there. I think it's really cool how it starts small and becomes larger. And then I also decided to build one more of those flex tubing trees. I am just building them randomly to try and change it up because this becomes very repetitive. The longer you sit there and build more and more trees, the better it looks, but you're pretty much doing the same thing over and over again, putting those leaves on the actual limb elements. I really like the ones that are like small on the bottom and get larger as they move upwards, so I built another one of those as well. Now I want to try and experiment and do something a little bit different because right now the leaves are all sitting like horizontal. And I want to add some connector elements to one of the trees so that I can get those leaves downward facing. I've done this before and I actually put the connector pieces on arch elements, but this time I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to put the connector pieces on the circular 2x2 bricks, and that's going to allow the branches to actually hinge downwards. So it took me a little bit of time to figure out that design, but then after that it's super easy because now it's like, okay, I know the gap, like I know the spacing between the leaves and I know the spacing between the trunk of the tree, so then I can repeat that process quickly. It's just coming up with the original design that took a little bit longer just because I'd never built one like this before, but I like it because those leaves are downward facing, it's really full, it's pretty neat. So I was able to build 2 of those. Unfortunately, I don't have any more parts to build another one, but I do have more arches, so I'm able to build another one of those large bushy trees. And then, of course, I have some more flex tubing and also some more of those 2x2 circular bricks, so I'm able to build another flex tubing tree. But that's pretty much all of my 2x2 circular reddish brown bricks, so I'm pretty much done on those. I do have some arches left over, but I don't have any more of the large arches, just the small ones. So I'm able to use the smaller arches to create a pretty tall tree that is pretty full as well. I also put some of the 1x3 inverted slopes on the top of it just to try and make it look larger at the top. So overall, we've got some good varieties of trees here today. I can't wait to see them in the medieval area. It's really going to just start making that place look a little bit more complete. And I'm excited about placing them.
So in total, there's 13 trees. These ones here are the ones I was talking about with the flex tubing. Pretty basic design. I make sure to put a leaf between each 2x2 brick just so they look more complete. So yeah, I got a bunch of those. They're really strong. You can just toss them around. That's what I like about them. So I got 4 of those. There's this one here, which was the original one from that area. I just had to add more leaves to it. So what I mean, like the leaves start larger on the bottom and then they sort of get smaller as it moves upward. I still like the look of it though. It doesn't look as good like from this perspective because you can see the trunk of the tree, but when you look down on it, it looks real full, real nice. These are the new variety that I wanted to build. These ones have the hinges so they can hinge downward, and I actually connected the leaves too using these curved slopes. Now you can't connect the leaves right to the connector piece without putting like a 1x1 stud. So what I decided to do is put some green flowers under there, but you can see how they connect just right there. And then they all hinge downward, and it just creates a really nice looking tree. I like those ones. Something a little bit different. Change the pitch of the branches. So you got 2 of those. There's another one of those flex tubing trees. These are super fast to build, or super easy to build. I like that, and they're super strong. That's just beauty. And I built 3 of these bad boys. These are the new ones. So rather than having it large on the bottom and large on the bottom, get smaller as you move upward, it's small on the bottom. There's those inverted slopes I was talking about, and then 2 layers of these smaller arches, and then the layer on the top, which is the larger arch. And then I also put some studs on there so I could get the top canopy filled in, and also in the center there's another one so you can see these leaves right here. And those just look super cool. I like those ones. First time I built that variety, and I was able to build 3 of those. A lot of parts go into these, and like I mentioned, I am out of the large arches, which is unfortunate. These are all the arches that I have left. Maybe there's enough brown arches to get one more like small variety of tree, but that's it. I got lots of leaves, and I got lots of these 1x3 inverted slopes too, so I could maybe build some more with that, but 13 is quite a bit. I don't want to build just like a massive forest over there. I want to concentrate on details and maybe some smaller style trees around those details. I really like the look of trees. I've definitely built a lot of trees for my Lego city. Like, it's actually crazy if you go around and count how many trees I have in the layout. It is madness. I will say though that I honestly don't think 13 trees is going to get us very far here. After placing a few of them, it's like, yeah, that's not very many trees at all. But once again, I want to try and add some different vegetation to this area. And I also want to try and place some sets and then do a bunch of like custom builds as well. So before I go ahead and build 50 trees and fill this area with trees, I think I need to start working on some of the landscaping and some of the paths and some of those mini structures, and then add the trees around those. The large trees are definitely my favorite. I think they look great. But one thing I will say is that the leaves have a tendency to fall off because they're actually only held onto the arch by 1 stud. What I could do is take some of the 1x2 curved slopes and also the studs, similar to what I did to the trees with the branches that are downward facing, and give it another point of connection to the arch. Once they're placed, they don't really fall off, but if I were to throw these in a bucket, the leaves would go everywhere, or if I were to move them around a lot, then you might have some leaves that fall off. But that's just the nature of Lego. Of course, there are ways that I can better secure them to the branches. Oh, geez, I definitely should have built a few more though, hey? Well, once again, I'm running out of those 2x2 circular bricks and the arches, so I can't really build any more. From up top, it looks pretty barren, but when you come down like this, okay, you can start to see some trees there. So I want to place some sets. I've got 3 in mind. Up top here I have Magisto's Magical Workshop and also the classic Magisto's Tower. And then over here on the raised platform where we used to have the medieval area, there is the Forestman Hideout right over here in the forest. I feel comfortable removing that and putting it in the medieval diorama. Oh boy, look at all those trees. I feel like taking those too. When I moved the medieval area, I replaced it with the Winter Village. Look at this. I could use these green plates for MILS plating that castle over there because I'm out of green plate. I can use these trail pieces over there as well because I want to build a trail connecting all the mini builds. I can also use these figures right here. That doesn't look very safe at all, but yeah, I'm definitely going to recycle these pieces and use them in the medieval diorama. At this point, I'm just sort of scratching my head about this diorama. Like, what do I do? There are so many different things that I could do. I think the best solution would be to build like a bunch of shops and put like the shops along the edge there, but would that really make sense outside of a castle? For the most part, the shops and everything and the taverns and whatnot would be inside the castle, wouldn't they? I did steal those trees and I put the Forestman Hideout right over here behind some of those trees, and then I put Magisto's Tower over here and Magisto's Magical Workshop over here. And I just sort of dispersed the trees. Obviously there needs to be some sort of battle here, and I want to do some other small structures. It's just a matter of what. Now, one thing that's sort of an eyesore right now is this castle. I need to MILS plate this castle. In order to do that, I've got to destroy all of this rock work. So another thing that I was thinking that I could do is, rather than just converting that into MILS and fixing all of this random stuff here and fixing up the moat and getting that looking better. What I could do is change the design of it rather than giving it a moat like it currently has, which sort of matches this castle. In fact, both castles sort of look similar design-wise, but this one just doesn't look as good just because it uses some of those older castle panels, and I just don't think it's done as well. But maybe rather than just MILS plating it as it is right now and having it as a moat, maybe what I could do is actually build these rock panels up in a rectangular form around this whole back and raise this up almost like it's a mountain, and this castle is sitting on top of a mountain because it's sort of already raised up on some rocks, which technically is some sort of mountain or cliff edge, but maybe I could increase the size of that. That might be an idea. And to be honest, I think before I even start to think about developing this area, I need to take care of MILS plating that. Like, that should be the next thing that I do. I got some trees here, I've got some miniature sets, some structures, thinking about building some more structures, thinking about getting some more minifigures so I can actually build a battle between the Lion Knights and the Black Falcon Knights. But I think I need to MILS plate that and maybe build this whole back section here as some sort of raised edge, like just pretty much just continue the same design, but have it go from edge to edge. That might be pretty cool. And then this is a castle that's sort of elevated up off the ground, giving this a little bit of height difference, similar to the MILS plates over here. So many different directions that I could head with this MOC. Something to think about. I think I like this solution. I changed the layout. I swapped the position of the two castles, so now we have the Black Falcon Knights castle right here, and I decided to turn it 90 degrees. So when you come into the Lego room, that's what you see. Also, we still see the King's castle right over here, and you see the front of it. So now we see the front of both castles. Sure, they're not facing each other anymore, but by doing this, it actually opened up a bunch of space right here, and I just sort of like this layout. Also, I was thinking about building the cliff edge, right? The issue with the cliff edge is I'm not going to have enough pieces to texture it on all 4 or all 3 sides. So if I were to build it here where the King's Castle used to be, then we'd have a flat gray wall on this side. And we'd also have a flat gray wall on this side and on that side. And you would see 2 of those walls when you come into the Lego room, similar to the ski slope. We saw the big white wall, which wasn't the most attractive thing to look at, but it was a ski slope, so it sort of worked out. But now that I've put this over there, if I decide to build a giant cliff edge or some sort of mountain for the King's Castle, we'll call it a mountain castle, I guess, then guess what? You're not going to see that solid dark gray wall because it's going to be on the back side and also on this side. And also, this area is already terraformed, like it already goes up and down, and it's like a rolling green hill. So it makes sense for this to transition into a cliff face or a mountain that castle sits on. Right? I think that's the solution. I think I just nailed it. So now what I've got to do is create a massive plate. And this plate is going to be 2.5 base plates. 1, 2, 2.5 by 2 base plates deep. So a grand total of 5 base plates. Sort of a strange dimension, but I hope to make it modular somehow with the IKEA boxes. And I'm not actually going to fix the castle on top of it. I'll just build the cliff faces and then have the surface all like plated off in gray or whatever it may be, maybe like a nice texture like this. And then I'll MILS plate this castle so it can freely float and sort of sit on top of that platform. At least I think that's what I'm going to do. Plans always change, but I sort of like this. I think that's the solution. I like that shot right there. I was also thinking to myself, hey, I've got another blacksmith tucked away in my backlog. I should probably build that into one of the alt builds on rebrickable.com and work it into this layout. Like maybe that will work out over here or something. That might be pretty cool. Or I could just part it out and use the parts to build something else that can be one of the little mini structures. But yeah, I'm going to start working on that massive MILS plate with the cliff face because I think I'm sold on this idea. It took a while to get here, but yeah, I think that's sweet. Let's do it.
The first thing I'm going to do is build a MILS plate. Now it's going to be a little bit smaller than I originally thought. It's only going to be 2.5 wide. That's 2.5 base plates by 1. It's just going to match up better with the other raised sections that I already have pre-constructed over there. However, I might build it out a little bit, like on the plates in front of it. We'll see when I actually get this castle placed on top of this new cliff edge, because building it like this is going to make it sort of square, but I think I'll be able to change that once it's actually placed. So I'm going to build a very strange MILS plate here. It's going to be very colorful. So I'm using colorful bricks, and also pretty much all of my colorful huge plates, they're 16 by 8 and 16 by 16. So they're like pink and orange and azure and yellow. But I just want to make this plate as strong as possible, because this thing is going to be somewhat of a beast when it's done, and I want to be able to... You don't have to build a MILS plate in order to build a cliff edge, but I like doing it just because it reinforces the plate and just makes it easier to transport. So what I'm going to do is actually add 4 studs of green on the front, because that's going to be the only exposed part, and that's going to match the other green. And once again, just using some odd size stuff, because I'm running very low on like green and gray plate. Well, maybe not gray, but definitely green. After I get my MILS plate built, it's time to start constructing my cliff edge. I'm actually going to use the gray, like the dark gray rock panels. I'm not talking dark bluish gray. I'm talking dark gray, like old school status here. I've got a whack of them in my inventory. When I first started collecting Lego, I bought those from Bricklink thinking they were dark bluish gray, and I just didn't know the difference. But it actually doesn't look too bad when you like cover those with dark bluish gray, because then you have like 2 different tones of rock. I'm also going to be using the IKEA boxes as my support structure. I bought a bunch of these from IKEA when they were 30% off. It was an absolute steal, so I bought like $800 worth. Oh my gosh, I do have a vlog on my channel of me going to IKEA and buying all that. It was a little bit ridiculous, but I'm not going to regret it moving forward, because now I have all of these awesome things that can help me build huge support structures, because once again, those boxes are 1 MERP or 6 bricks tall, so it just lines up perfect with those rock panels. Once I have the boxes placed and the cliff edge built, I am going to cover it with dark gray plate. Luckily, I have a lot of dark gray plate, but plate doesn't last long. Like it can go pretty quick, but I'm using some 16 by 16s and some 8 by 8s and some 6 by 8s and 4 by whatever. There's just all sorts of different sizes of dark gray plate that are going to top this thing. But I wanted it to be topped in dark gray, and I might actually like transform that a little bit once I actually place the castle, just because this is this is way bigger than the actual castle. So once I place it on there, there's going to be some room that's open on the sides of it for additional details and landscaping. But I just wanted to get the base structure done and then sort of go from there. Like always, you got to start with the base structure. I can't start detailing it right away, and I don't really plan things out until I get in the moment. So now we've got these real ugly rock panels, and I want to spruce them up a little bit with tons of slopes. So I find all of my dark bluish gray slopes, dump them out on the table, and I start throwing them down on those rock faces like crazy. So I'm using just slopes, and also I'm using some inverted slopes as well, because they can help you go up. Now what I should do is order a ton of curved slopes so I can start trying different styles of rock. I know I've done this style of rock like so many times, it's actually crazy, like with the rock panels and the slopes. It's crazy to think how many times these slopes have been recycled through different builds. But I would like to one day try the curved slope technique, where you like bracket mount plate and then you put the curved slopes on it. I've done something similar to that in the zoo for the bear exhibit. I should try doing something like that, but I have these parts in my inventory, so why wouldn't I just use them? I'm also adding some vegetation and some random colored slopes, cheese slopes, and also studs just to break it up a little bit, because there's a lot of dark gray there, so I just want to add a little pop of color here and there. And I think this huge plate is definitely looking pretty good, and I can't wait to place the castle on top. All right, now it's time to place this huge plate in the medieval area, so we're going to remove the castle once again. I built this other one a different size so it matches the rest of the raised area in the medieval section. So there is going to be a half base plate strip in front of it that is open. Luckily for me, I've got some half base plates that are already MILS plated, so I can just slide those in front of it. And then I'm going to take the castle, which is on the 4x4 plates, and place it on top just to try and visualize what this place is going to look like. And that's the next thing I need to deal with, is that castle that's still on the regular base plates. So here we go, pretty much going to destroy all of this work. But hey, look at all those slopes. It's a lot of slopes, and that's a lot of dark bluish gray rock panels and dark bluish gray slopes that I'm going to have access to, so I can now use those in a different MOC, probably somewhere in this medieval area in the future. I would imagine in the future. I mean, within the next week or so. But now that I've got that thing removed, which is actually fairly easy to do because I just literally just flexed the plates off, and then I just popped the plates that top those rock panels off, and they were adapted to the castle, so the castle sort of came with it. And now what I'm doing is going around with 1x and 2x dark bluish gray plate, and I'm framing the underlying plate just to reinforce all of the seams. So this castle is now going to be lifted up off the ground by 2 plates. It just makes more sense because now it's sort of modular, and I'm sure once I actually place it, I'll probably use like jumpers or something to tack it down to the top of that massive plate that we just built.
There it is, placed on top of the cliff edge. I still need to address some things. I know that it would probably fit better if I actually rotated it 90 degrees and had the back right over there by that tree. I did try that, and I think it looks really good, but I want it facing this way. So what I'm actually going to do is blow up this section of the mountain right there, so lined up with the gate, and then I'm going to build a protrusion of rock that looks like a ramp that leads up to the castle. Sort of like Helm's Deepish. Sort of like this castle over here, but more of like a natural rock formation. I think that will look pretty cool. Now I transferred this, like I took it off of its rock panels, and I didn't upgrade the castle, but I want to upgrade this castle. So eventually I'm going to be switching out some of these old school castle walls with the little hole for masonry and just giving this thing a little bit of an upgrade. Now this does represent the original King's Castle quite closely. However, it is double the size, but this is pretty much the original build. So I don't want to go away from that too much, but I do want to give it just a slight upgrade. Now there is a bunch of space, like 16 studs on this side of the castle and also 16 studs on this side of the castle. And there's a plastic container down there that I keep kicking. So what I want to do is just build some sort of castle, like grab maybe some scenes outside, whether it be like battle camps, some archery ranges, just things that you would see just outside of the castle walls. So I want to do that. I also want to terraform that a bit there so it looks more natural. It's not going to stay all dark gray. I know it looks very square right now, but that is going to change. Also, I need to blend in these 2 plates. That's why I didn't add slopes to the dark gray rock panels there, just because I didn't know how it was going to line up with this plate here. I do want to connect this trail so that it goes up top there and sort of leads into the camp or whatever I decide to build up there. So this isn't done yet, nor is the entire diorama. This is a process that takes a lot of time. Eventually, I want this whole area to be all detailed like this, just so it matches with all of the other plates. So once I get around to doing that, this area is going to look a lot better. And like I've been mentioning throughout this video, I still want to build a bunch of like mini builds and, you know, a tavern and maybe another blacksmith. I do have the other blacksmith set, so maybe I can build that and put it into this area as well. So there's still a lot of things that have to happen here today, but I've made some tremendous progress today with the creation of this plate, the new idea, the placement of these sets, and also the creation of 11 pretty highly detailed trees. So I think this area is coming along. It's just sort of one day at a time. I worked on it all day, and just sort of coming up with the ideas and executing those ideas just takes a little bit of time, but it's all part of the process, and it's a lot of fun as always. And thank you so much for coming on by. I'm sure I forgot to discuss some ideas here, but there's lots of different things that we can do in this area, and let me know what you think of it by commenting below. Thank you so much. Remember to have yourselves a great day. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Farewell.